Hello and welcome back. You're listening to Family Planet365 on AM 1220 KHTS. I'm your host, Malena Jackson, and today's show is brought to you by the Nanny Factory. Now, in the first half of the show, we talked about life insurance because today we're talking about planning for life and death. And I have Robert Barkle here with me, who is a representative from Gotcha Covered, and basically he talks about life insurance and long-term care. So, Robert, what would be the one piece of advice you would give to families who might be, kind of considering it? They're on the fence. They're not sure if, maybe life insurance might be jinxing them. You start talking about death and it's going to happen. What advice would you give to a family that might be on the fence about life insurance?
Well, first of all, talk to a professional. Life insurance is a very complicated product. The policies are 20 to 30 pages. They're written by lawyers, for lawyers. We've seen people go on the internet and buy products and not really even know what they're getting and be real disappointed. It doesn't cost any more to talk to a professional, so that's my advice.
All right, well, there you have it. Thank you so much, Robert Barkle, for being here. And coming up, we have Curtis Woods, as I promised. He is here to talk to us about planning our memorial and what that looks like. Now, what I told you in the beginning of the show, how Eternal Valley is really, really beautiful. You should Google it right now if you're near the internet or near your computer. It's a really beautiful spot. And when I thought about planning your memorial, I said, let me just take a look at the website and see. And through Dignity Memorial, which is, I guess, the company that manages Eternal Valley, they have an online program where you can actually plan your memorial now. So that's really good. We'll talk to Curtis about that. But first, let me tell you a little bit more about him. Curtis is the general manager of Eternal Valley and Mortuary here in Santa Clarita. He is active in local chambers, civic, and hospice organizations. And Curtis quickly admits that he enjoys meeting people, which is also a large part of what he does. What Curtis enjoys most is breaking the stereotypes that people have of cemetery and funeral workers. With his upbeat and approachable personality, people are generally surprised when they find out that he is I won't say a mortician, but he works at a funeral home. It's kind of strange. But I think Curtis is here, and he's going to totally give us a whole different view of what that looks like. Welcome, Curtis.
Thank you. I really appreciate you having me on the show. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. My pleasure. So, Curtis, tell me a little bit about how did you get started in the mortuary business? Is that the correct term?
It's the right term. Mortuary business, end-of-life care. A lot of different terms have come up just to kind of make the profession seem a little bit more palatable, a little bit more comfortable to talk about. But in the end, when I'm out in the community, I introduce myself as the friendly neighborhood mortician.
Oh my gosh.
How awesome is that, right?
Oh. The friendly neighborhood mortician.
That's what it is, because what I believe is that my service is very important. Mm-hmm. I'm proud of what I do. I've been doing it for 10 years. And I think people avoid talking about the services we provide because they have a negative connotation to it. They don't like talking about a funeral, be it for grandma or someone that's expecting to pass, because it's such a sensitive profession. But the way I got into it is through friends in the profession, where I heard that there was an opportunity available. And I went ahead and interviewed for a position. I started in our Dignity Memorial corporate office to learn more about the businesses, the strategies. Our network has over 2,000 locations throughout the United States and Canada. And I had the privilege of visiting many of them prior to working in the field. And as I'm working here in Santa Clarita here today, prior to here, I've managed in Bakersfield. I've managed in Lancaster, and kind of had an idea and a feel in each of these different markets about what is the service that we provide. And no matter where we go, it's still a very difficult conversation to break the ice on, as you can imagine. People expect that people in my profession are like the Addams family.
Yeah,
like
that's what I'm thinking.
answers. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't. He has on a nice suit and tie.
Oh, you
for
like
those
this
of
whole
you who
thing?
are listening. Yeah,
Well, I appreciate
You're
it.
looking good. And and you think, oh, he's gonna have all black on and probably
Right.
like this long robe, and he's
Right.
ready to embalm someone.
Hello.
And talk like this because, like I was telling you earlier, in the South, a lot of the people who work in the funeral homes,
Right.
like you can say 2 words to them, and that's
You
the
know exactly
conversation.
that's about it. And as I mentioned, my parents are from Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, down in the South.
Okay.
And that's exactly what it is there. And I purposefully try not to wear black and white with a black tie, although that's what I wear for services because
Yeah.
families expect it.
Okay.
But when I'm in the community, I change it with maybe blue and gray and kind of change it up a little bit so that at least I can get to know you, shake your hand.
Oh, wow.
Before you know you're shaking the mortician's hand.
Ooh, is
How
it
cool
cold?
is that, though?
Shake it. Is it cold?
Well, it's cold
Oh,
here.
his hand is
It
cold,
is
y'all.
cold,
It's
my
cold.
My bad.
Oh, wow. Okay, I like that. It's kind of like, a pediatrician. Good pediatricians say, I don't wear a white jacket because
Right.
a lot of times when kids see you with a white jacket, they
Right.
expect shots.
Right.
So I have my pediatrician. He just wears regular clothes.
Yeah.
He's just down to earth guy.
So it doesn't seem so clinical.
Yeah,
I'm sure, right?
exactly.
That makes
I love
sense.
that. I love
makes
that.
sense.
And what would you say, though, Curtis, is the most challenging part of your position?
Well, first, just in the profession overall, having the conversation of our specific services when a family has experienced a loss, it's just difficult, no matter how you look at it. Obviously, the tragic loss of a youth is very difficult, but it's even difficult when grandma or grandpa have hit 100, 105 years old because nevertheless, it's love lost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I will say, sitting in a service for someone that has lived to be 100 years old or more, those are pretty awesome because you get to hear how life was 100 years ago.
Yeah.
Life was so much more simple back then. Talking about how people used to walk the railway just to explore as children. And today, I wouldn't let my kids walk on the railway if I wanted them to. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
But the service that we provide is difficult just having a conversation. But for us funeral and cemetery workers, is very rewarding because it feels good to do good by people.
Yeah.
It feels good to help people in their biggest time of need, to help them turn the page of recovery and just get back to living life and then remembering a loved one that they once had.
Awesome. That's such a great mission to have and such a great purpose, and to be a part of that. I know it sounds pretty fulfilling.
Yes.
When I was growing up, I always thought, if this news thing doesn't work out, because I wanted to be a news reporter, and I was for several years,
Awesome.
I said I could work at a funeral home and be like at the funeral and make the announcements, like who brought the flowers.
Right.
That would be such a cool job to me, just to be able to do that.
It's really cool. And actually, we're just a service-oriented profession. Folks that are good with people will do well in our profession. People who are good in hotels and similar hospitality services, they do well in funeral. And actually, my staff are really diverse. We have one of my managers used to be a preschool teacher. She has a caring nature. And she joined our staff several years ago, and she's managing the funeral home with me. So it's a really good and rewarding profession. But the one thing I want to say is that people expect that our business, the way we grow it, would be to pray every night that the death
people
rate
die.
increases. Yeah, please die. No. That's not how we grow our business. The way we grow our business is actually getting out in the community and educating them on pre-planning.
Okay, that's what we
talk about. That.
Yeah, okay, I like that. Because, Curtis, as you've heard already, and we should probably make an appointment, I've already located the spot that I want to be laid to rest in 65 years.
Awesome.
Now, I keep
Or
saying
more,
that
or more.
because we have what we say. So 65 or more, but I'll be
more.
101.
There
so
you
do
go.
the math,
There you
right?
go,
Okay, so I'm thinking that's pretty good. And I was thinking, wow, okay, will this be here then? Will Eternal Valley still be? How long has Eternal Valley been in the valley?
Well, we have, let's put it this way. In our very first section, we have members of the Lyons family buried with us. So that's Lyons Avenue right over here. They're buried at Eternal Valley. Our place is actually a registered landmark, and we have some history in that I could share with you at our park.
Okay.
But the Eternal Valley that everybody sees on the side of the freeway, that's only 40% of our land. On the back side of that hill, I have a whole nother Eternal Valley that hasn't even been developed.
Really?
So I would say a cemetery is the most efficient use of real estate that you'll find. And we have a special methodology at developing and expanding. But again, for our land that we have, we're only about 40% developed. We have plenty of acreage left, and being full is not going to happen for at least 3-4 generations from now.
Okay.
We got plenty of time.
Okay, that puts me at peace.
Right.
Okay,
right.
thanks for confirming that. So then let's talk about pre-planning. So on the website, I saw that you can go and plan your memorial. Now, I didn't start the process.
Okay.
But tell me a little bit about that. Like, is it true what I saw? You can plan your memorial?
You can plan the memorial. You also have a choice to either fund it or not fund it. First, what I'll say is that the services, the life insurance policy that Robert was speaking about earlier is very important. I personally have my own life insurance policy to cover myself and my family. Those help in our profession because obviously if someone were to pass unexpectedly or at a young age, that policy will help offset these immediate costs that you didn't anticipate. But I would say pre-planning your funeral and cemetery is a complementary item to your life insurance policy.
Okay.
The life insurance policy, what I believe and the way I use mine is to help pay off, as Robert was mentioning, maybe a mortgage, or if you have a new car, you got to make the final car payments and pay it off so that the people that are left behind aren't strapped with this huge monthly debt. I would say pre-planning your funeral and cemetery not only gives you the peace of mind that your family doesn't have to make these difficult decisions when you pass, which is probably the worst time to make those type of decisions, but it also allows you to pay for it in advance. So when they come to sit at the table with us to have those services, only thing I ask them is what day and what time. They don't have to write any checks, don't have to put any money towards it, because once you plan your funeral, you have the choice to fund it at that point. It locks in today's prices. So 80 years from now, when you finally hit 101, 80 years from now, because I did the math. You'd only be in your 20s right now. So
you are too funny. Thank you. I'll take it.
Okay,
yes.
But if you start the contract this year, you lock in this year's prices. So 80 years from now, just like inflation, everything goes up. You don't have to worry about it. We have people using services today that purchased them when our spaces were only $500.
Whoa.
So they don't pay anything extra. They don't pay any additional cost. They are locked into the prices they paid back in the 70s.
All because they pre-planned.
And one thing that people are thankful for is that mom, dad, grandma, they had the ideas and the responsibility amongst themselves to make those plans. So while they're mourning the loss of a loved one, they don't have to figure out, well, did they want cremation or do they want to be buried? Because you want to make sure you make the right decision. Did they want to have their casket open or closed? And when you don't plan, you're left with having to make those decisions to your best guess. Because do you know if your family member would prefer to be cremated or would they prefer to have a traditional burial? So the pre-planning process goes through all those questions, but more importantly, it asks you, do you have life insurance policies? Where are they? Is your loved one a veteran? Because veterans get benefits also. So where is their discharge paperwork? Where's that located? What bank accounts do you have? What social security information should you have? And believe it or not, when a person passes, you need to know how to close their driver's license out.
I'm thinking about who's going to close my Facebook page.
Who closes your Facebook page?
Yeah.
And actually, Facebook has that new service now where you can have a person's page open for so long, and it can be a memorial. They can pass on that password to a designated person, and all of that stuff can be noted in your plan at Eternal Valley. That's what we do. But again, people don't know that value until they come shake the hand of the mortician. Get to know me. And once you get to know me, now maybe we're a little bit comfortable about talking about a difficult conversation.
I love that. And that it's almost like it's your duty to get out into the community and educate. Educate those who might be afraid, because everything stems from fear, pretty much.
Exactly.
Who might be afraid, I don't want to start that conversation because I'm a mom, I'm a dad. I'm just getting my life started. And, who's going to talk about death or planning for your memorial. And like I said, it's for me, it actually accepting the idea that it's going to happen and being okay with it has actually allowed me not to be afraid of it.
I totally agree with you. And as in my profession, people don't hang out at the cemetery, so we don't expect.
I do.
Well, I mean, generally, you're right. We do have regular visitors, which is an awesome thing. But I can't just expect someone to come and say, "Hey, what's this cemetery thing about?" I have to get out.
You got to go where the people are.
I got to go where the people are. And what's awesome is that I've had the privilege to work with the chambers, and now I've just been installed as the chairman of the board for our local Santa Clarita Valley Chamber of Commerce.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you. Which gives me an opportunity not only to talk
more.
about businesses in general, but to reach more a larger audience, to talk about the benefits of Dignity Memorial and Eternal Valley.
Awesome. Well then, okay, so Curtis, let's talk about the different ways, okay? So I used to want to be cremated. I don't want to do that anymore.
Okay.
I'm thinking, like I said, I was thinking of a mausoleum.
Okay.
Which is really cool.
They're really nice.
Yeah,
actually.
it's really just neat. It's just a neat concept. But what should you take into consideration? Should you be cremated to be scattered over the Pacific Ocean? I want to say Pacific Ocean because it's
one,
fun.
right?
But how do you make those plans? I mean, how do you determine what you want to, like, what do you want to do?
Well, for me, for most people, those decisions are based on family tradition. Traditionally, my family has had a traditional burial, which is a full body burial. My family has not historically done cremation.
Okay.
But there is a growing trend with cremation. And I think with the younger generation, more people are selecting cremation right now. It's about a 40% cremation profession here in California.
Why is that?
I guess just general preferences. People feel that maybe a cremation is a little bit more green, or they may not want to do a burial and do a scattering, as you mentioned. We are a service profession, so what we do is we have that conversation, find out what they prefer, and then we tell them different pathways to getting to where they want to be interred, or what disposition they prefer. Interred. So interred being buried. Okay. So we have the scattering option. We do it over the Channel Islands. We do it over the Pacific, whatever the family prefers. And we have the traditional burial model. Now, if you live in California, but you want to go back home to Florida, Alabama, wherever you'd like to go, we have a network that can start you here and get you buried over there, wherever you prefer. So all of these things are possible.
Wow.
But they're only possible after you come in and take those thoughts in your head, share them with your family, share them with us. Let's write it down. And then hopefully maybe start paying towards it so that when the time does come 80 years from now, that you don't have to worry about someone having to pay for all of that.
Okay.
So those are good options.
So when you talk about paying for it, now what if you have life insurance? You need to come out of pocket and pay for it?
So with life insurance, we honor life insurance policies. And there are a lot of families that choose that, which is a diligent way of paying for funeral cemetery services.
Okay.
The challenge is most people spend a large percentage or sometimes even drain the entire life insurance policy just to do the burial and cemetery. On average, at my place and just throughout the profession, the average funeral service is about $5,000, and the average cemetery service is about $5,000. Combined, $10,000.
What's cemetery service?
So cemeteries, when you speak about cemetery services, we're talking about the property, the specific space that you'd like to be placed. Okay. So that's going to have a value for that particular property. The funeral service can be at Eternal Valley or any one of our network, what we call standalone funeral homes in each neighborhood. But the funeral service is the celebration, the church portion, getting the clergy, getting the family invitations out and things of that sort. That's kind of, I liken those to like the wedding planners.
Okay.
So that's the service is the funeral, and the cemetery is going to be the actual property. Combined, we're looking at about $10,000. So if you have a policy that's about $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, you're going to spend a huge chunk of that going towards the services that we have. We obviously gladly accept that as a measure of payment, but whenever possible, I try to encourage families to save that money for the other bills that are remaining. The mortgage, just like Robert was talking about earlier.
Okay.
So that's where the differences come into doing the pre-planned, prepaid funeral services that lock in the prices at Eternal Valley or throughout our network, as compared to using your life insurance policy, which is all possible also.
All right. Well, if you're just tuning in, you're listening to Family Planet 365 on AM 1220 KHTS. I'm your host, Malena Jackson, and I'm here with Curtis Woods, the general manager for Eternal Valley Cemetery and Mortuary. And we're talking about funeral plans, and he's making it pretty easy. I mean, if you've been listening, it's really pleasant, and I've learned quite a bit of things to, put you in the proactive stage, even talking about whether or not you want to be cremated or interred.
Right.
I like that. I just learned that just now.
Look at you.
Yeah. And you just talked to us about pre-planning and possibly prepaying.
Right.
Now, I did a little math. And so what I hear you saying is go ahead and plan and prepay $10,500 pretty much?
Just about. Yeah.
And then save the actual life insurance money for like the debt that's going to be left behind.
Exactly.
Oh, interesting.
And again, the prices are going to vary because it just as we're a service profession, a wedding can be just as grand as you like, as big or small as you like. The same can be done for a funeral. We can have it as large or as small and intimate as you prefer. So that's about right for the ballpark. And I'd say it's best to separate and differentiate the purposes of like your pre-plans and keep the life insurance policy for what it's designed for, which is for the living that people are left behind.
Oh, it's for the living. I didn't know that.
Well, that's the way I look at it because just as Robert was mentioning, you may have a mortgage. That mortgage is still going to be there after you pass. You may have a brand new car with a car note. That's still going to be there also. Just because a person passes doesn't mean that debt is forgiven. You might have credit cards and all of these things that we currently pay monthly today. You're going to still have to do that. And a life insurance policy, I believe, in my purpose, that's what it's designed to pay off. You use that money to pay all that stuff down so your family doesn't have to worry about it. But with us, you can plan ahead, make the plan, and you have a choice to fund it or not. It's up to you, but at least have the plan. And let's say, here's another scenario. Let's say you're here in Santa Clarita. You choose Eternal Valley. You pre-plan here. You prepay it. Let's just say it's paid in full.
Okay.
If you decide to move to New York or a different state, that plan, both funeral and cemetery, transfers with you within our Dignity Network. We have locations in every major city here in the United States, even in Canada and Puerto Rico.
Wow.
And then if you want to upgrade, downgrade, or do any shifts, all of that stuff follows you. You're not stuck or landlocked to any one place. Here in California alone, we have 180 locations in our network in just California.
In California.
So then once you go to Washington, Oregon, Florida, New York, Texas, all these other places, we have network affiliates there that all this stuff transfers. So don't feel like you're locked into one location and you're not allowed to move to Palm Springs or something to that effect. No matter where you move, our Dignity Memorial providers will follow you. Yes.
I love that.
It's a good deal.
Yeah, that's refreshing. I mean, it's like, it's a no-brainer. And I'm not just saying that because you're sitting here in front of me, but I'm so glad that we're having this conversation because I didn't know that. I was thinking, I'm just going to make this my home.
Right.
And this is where I'll be. But now I have the freedom and flexibility to go wherever I want, really.
Right.
Although I do prefer Eternal Valley.
Right.
But it's nice to know that you're not stuck.
You're not stuck. So if you have life changes or you decide you want to live a more simple life and get out of the big city to some smaller city, that's fine because life happens and decisions change. Anything you invest here locally in Newhall at Eternal Valley will also follow you elsewhere. So it's all flexible. It's all flexible.
And I like what you said as far as life insurance being for the living. I was totally thinking it was for planning for your memorial.
Right.
So that's a correction there too.
Yeah, and I think, again, I believe life insurance is a very, very important part of just the person being responsible and diligent to planning their own and preparing their own life. And that's why I have my policies. And I intend that, if anything were to happen today or tomorrow, I feel that I'm covered. Our mortgage is covered. The credit cards, all those things are all covered for my family, so they don't have to worry about that type of thing.
Now, would you say, Curtis, like we talked to Robert earlier about talking to your insurance rep maybe once a year.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I want you to tell us about, once we make these plans, is it something we should revisit?
Yes.
Or how often we should revisit it? Okay.
Awesome.
You're listening to Family Planet 365. More when we come back. Hello and welcome back. You're listening to Family Planet 365 on AM 1220 KHTS. I'm your host, Malena Jackson. And today we are talking about life insurance and the benefits of planning your memorial while you have a heartbeat. And today in studio for our last segment, we have Curtis Woods, who is the general manager of Eternal Valley Cemetery and Mortuary right here in Santa Clarita. And one of the things I told you, if you're near your computer, you should Google it. It's such a beautiful place. But from what I'm understanding, all of Dignity Memorial cemeteries are beautiful. So that's comforting.
Right.
Before the break, I was talking to Curtis about how we can go online and we can pre-plan our memorial service. And my question to you, you said the the policy or the plan will follow us. So whether we
Correct.
decide to stay here in Santa Clarita, go to New York, go to Florida,
Right.
it follows us.
Exactly.
Okay, so say that, for instance, I go in February and set the plan. How often should I revisit that or make changes? Like, can I determine what dress I want?
You
or-
can do all of that, and we go into great detail. And sometimes what I tell my counselors to do is to jot down actual notes, and that sits right in your file. All of our files are permanent. But what I will say is that the people that typically come in to do pre-planning are those that have had to do services for a loved one before. They see how complicated
yeah.
it is.
Okay.
So they come in and do pre-planning, and what we find over time after they have their plan in place, mom and dad might have a plan, and then you know what, mom or dad's sister or brother may say, you know what, that's a wise thing to do. So they may invite them to come in, and then maybe the older children may want to kind of pre-plan for themselves, and then we start to build family heritage at our location.
Oh, family
So
heritage.
the reason why I would say you should visit it and maybe revisit maybe a year and later or beyond that is that you'll find that once mom and dad are in a place, or grandma and grandpa are in a place, family members may want to get spaces next to or in that same area, so that we'll have like the full Smith family in this area all together forever. We find that when a family member prearranges their cemetery place, their children, their siblings, their parents typically want to be in that same general area. So while they may not come in and check on their own policy every 6 months or every year or whatever the frequency is, they will probably refer their family members to come in and reserve a space close to them, so that that could be like a small family section. So that's what typically happens after a person has their place, their pre-plans in order, that they start talking about it with family and friends. And at first they're like, what are you doing? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
You're not going to die. You're not going to die.
Yeah, that's my husband.
Yeah. So, but the more they talk about it, the more they realize, you know what, that's a really diligent thing to do. And then they say, I want to do the same thing. So that's how that kind of typically works.
It's like a domino effect.
Yeah, it is a domino effect. And again, that's what we do. People don't expect the mortuary or my licensed funeral directors to be educators. But
Yeah, because I'm thinking you only come to them when you need to have the funeral. You
Right.
don't go and get consultation
Right.
from the funeral director or the
Right.
mortuary.
Right.
But-
And one other awesome benefit that I didn't mention is that, let's say you do have a plan.
Okay.
You have a funeral plan. It's specific to funeral only. If you had a funeral plan that you were funding, and let's say you were in making your payments for 2 years or 3 years or whatever, for, let's just say you decided to have it over 5 year stretch for payments.
Okay.
If you had it for 2 years and something were to happen in a car accident, we will pay the difference. Whatever else is owed, we pay the difference.
Until the insurance comes in?
Nope, that's it. Your debt or whatever's left over is forgiven. So let's say,
What?
for example, it's a $5,000 policy.
Okay.
First year you paid in $1,000. Second year is $2,000 in it. If something happens in that second year or third year, we'll just forgive the difference. We'll just cover the rest. You'll be covered through that policy that you've written. So there's a lot of little intricacies and awesome
Wow.
benefits that we get the opportunity
That's
to express to
unheard
family.
of.
It is. And when they're ready to talk about it, we can tell them about those benefits, the free benefits that veterans get. They get free memorials. They get free burial spaces. They have all kind of free stuff that people learn about when they have the time and they have the courage to have the conversation.
Wow. Okay. Well, then, Curtis, tell us, how do we get in touch with you or your lovely staff over at Eternal Valley?
I would say the best way to reach me is give us a call. It's 661 area code 259 0800, or if you're in the neighborhood, just stop by. You'll find that my place is really serene. We're right off Sierra Highway, right off of Newhall.
Nice. All right. Well, Curtis, thank you so much for being here. I look forward to talking to you more.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for being so brave to invite the mortician to sit with you today. Thank you.
All right. Stamp of approval. You're welcome, Curtis. That's our time. That's our 10th episode this year so far. I am so excited. Thank you for tuning in to Family Planet 365. We'll be back here next Friday at 11, where we're going to talk about how to get organized. That's our show. Have a great weekend. Talk to you later. Bye for now.